Waifu Impact is a third-person shooter game released for the Nintendo Switch, Steam, and the PlayStation Store in the year of our Lord 2022. Its retail price is $5, and its preview image looks like this. Because if you don't have a game that anyone anywhere would ever actually want to play, just sell it on boobs instead! The game has no introduction of any kind. You just spawn as some anonymous blue-haired anime girl with a huge rack and a tight bikini who appears on some unknown beach with no explanation. Maybe this nice green beacon thing will explain to me what's going on. Or maybe it does absolutely nothing when you touch it. And none of the buttons seem to interact with it either. The left trigger pulls out a squirt gun, X pulls out a map, the left bumper runs and B jumps, and that's the sum total of the controls. How in the hell is a game called Waifu Impact about running around a beach in your underwear still confusing? Okay, there's a counter for stars in the corner of the screen. Maybe collecting them all ends the stage or something. So I start wandering around the island looking for the stars. My feet clip into basically everything that I touch, and every now and then I find other bikini-clad women who shoot the hell out of me with projectiles that you can't dodge worth crap. Your only weapon is a basic pistol that barely seems to do much. I haven't found any alternate weapons as pickups, and it takes forever and a half to get your health back once you've taken undodgeable damage. You seriously have to sit on your ass for like a minute to slowly recover health. Like, what the hell? All throughout the game world are other scantily clad women with water guns who walk in tiny circles until you get close enough for them to detect you. Once an enemy has been alerted to you, you can run away and try to avoid combat. It doesn't matter. They start chasing you until one of you's dead. The AI does at least seem competent enough not to chase you off cliffs, at least not in plain view. They'll just stand on the ledge impotently shaking their boobs at you until you turn your back and their pathfinding kicks back on. All the enemies have the exact same one character model, and they sense your presence even if their back is turned, so apparently this island is infested with psychic clone robots! Being robots would explain why shooting them a few times with a water gun makes them explode! I feel like I've just invented a much better game. Unless there happens to be cover nearby, there's no way to avoid getting shot. It turns out touching those green beacons recovers health, not that the game tells you that, but there are only a few on the island, and otherwise it takes what feels like a small eternity to recover health. So it's a good thing enemies don't actually patrol anywhere so that you can heal in peace. You don't get anything for killing the enemies. Not health packs or upgrades or any progress towards stars. Not jack shit. And if, on the off chance the enemies kill you, nothing happens then either. You get sent back to the last green beacon that you touched and you don't lose any stars or progress. So what is the actual point of combat since the game doesn't give a shit if you die and doesn't give a shit if you kill people? Because taking out 50 enemies unlocks 2 pictures of your player character. That's it. That's the whole combat mechanic. So are they nude pictures, or are they more hand-drawn artwork like the actually pretty well-made profiles that they show for each character? No! All you get are stills of the crappy in-game models barely almost kinda posing. Shit that you see all the time just playing the game like normal. Your only rewards for combat are snapshots of the basic gameplay. Literally the least amount of work they could have put into the unlockables. Every time you collect 5 stars, you can unlock a new player character, as if any of these anonymous silhouettes actually means anything to you. But what they don't tell you is that each player character has a different gun, and you don't find out what kind of gun until after you've unlocked them to try it yourself. Because I suspect that you're meant to pick unlockable characters based more on who you might want to jack it to. The first girl that I unlocked, this purple-haired chick with a huge rack, has a gun that kills in one hit, but only carries one shot and has to reload for a while. So, a sniper rifle where they couldn't be asked to add the actual scope function. Great. The second girl that I unlocked, this blonde chick with a huge rack, has a machine squirt gun. A machine squirt gun. See, the engineer in me is concentrating on how you'd make a water gun work like this, and I'm arriving at having a lawn sprinkler strapped to a gun handle, and now I kinda want to try it. And the fourth girl that I unlocked, the redhead with the huge rack, has got the exact same machine gun as Blondie because they couldn't even be asked to come up with 6 distinct weapons in this third-person shooter. Hell, one of the unlockable girls has the same shitty starter pistol as the blue-haired girl that you start with. Why not a water balloon thrower that works like a grenade launcher, a hose that works like a lightning gun, a shower head attachment that works like a shotgun by scattering water, or a spread fire like in Contra that emulates the thing that waters my lawn? Then again, who am I to call the game lazy when it has all of one enemy type, one small map, no pickups, no penalty for dying, and really awkward ragdoll physics for defeated enemies in lieu of an actual animation? Seriously, that looks friggin' awkward. And the best part about changing characters, if you go to the character selection screen, scroll through the options, and either have nobody to switch to or just decide to stick with the girl you were just using, the frame rate completely shits itself inside out, sputtering non-friggin' stop until you switch girls. And if you've just started the game and don't have the stars to unlock someone else, shutting the game off is the only way to fix it. Changing characters also respawns all the enemies on the map, which don't otherwise come back on their own. So again, it's a damn good thing that dying has no penalty, because odds are good that every time you switch characters, you'll immediately have 3 bimbos shooting you to shit before you know what's going on. I've heard other people complain about crashes or glitching into rocks into the ocean. I tried my best and I couldn't get those to happen. Maybe the Switch version is more stable if for some reason you're inclined to try this trash out for yourself. I did see metric craploads of clipping though. Your feet phase into the ground pretty much everywhere that you go. Running with your gun drawn will have said gun phase through your arms, and any girl with long hair, which would be all of them, will have said hair glitch all the way through their torso and come back out through their chest. But the one element of the game where the clipping isn't so funny is in the platforming. A few of the stars take jumping across a string of platforms to reach, and the jumping feels incredibly stiff and awkward. But when you jump to a ledge, one of 3 things will happen. Either you'll grab the ledge and climb up like you're supposed to, you'll bounce right off the ledge for no reason because this game sucks, or you'll phase through the platform into the middle of the terrain and then pull yourself up through said solid surface. So one of the stars is kind of a luck-based mission. But I finally got that star that takes all the jumping and really don't feel like making my way back, so let's see if you can make some waifu street pizza. Of course, no fall damage or any reaction whatsoever to being thrown from a multi-story drop. Want to know what else they couldn't be bothered to program? There are a few portions of the map where you can go underwater. Not only could they not be asked to make any swimming animations, but I held this girl's head under the water for 7 minutes, and she didn't drown. And you can still shoot your water guns and hit and kill pursuing enemies while underwater. Shooting a water gun underwater doesn't impede your shooting at all, and water itself doesn't impede your movement. It's just treated as being on dry land. And speaking of water, anytime you get anywhere near this stuff, you can look forward to the flat, solid top surface of the water, periodically blocking out your entire camera. Also, not to question the mechanics of shovelware waifu shit island, but if water doesn't affect you at all, then why does getting shot with water guns hurt you and the other enemies? And behold the great majestic wonders of pre-made Asset Isle, flowers that float out in the middle of nowhere, a sight so majestic that Boob Lady levitates and steps out onto empty air to observe them. I don't think they programmed the hitboxes around the terrain correctly, which explains why I'm pretty sure that I've been shot through solid rocks several times. I spent about a half a damn hour traipsing over this whole island looking for the last 2 stars. About an hour and a half into the game, suspiciously about the time the Steam refund window begins to close, I got a notification that Super Waifu had spawned. Super Waifu is a giant girl that shoots missiles that are piss easy to dodge and who is very easy to shoot. This is your boss enemy, and once you defeat her, you unlock what appears to be the girl that they cloned for all of the enemies, sporting the worst gun in the game by a mile since it fires projectiles that move at a snail's pace. Really worth the effort of unlocking her, guys. Thanks. Now back to the stars. One is hidden down a trench to where you kind of have to stumble across it by pure accident, and one is hidden at the top of a mountain in a spot where there is no way in hell that I missed it. I combed the top of this mountain like a dozen times and it was right under my nose. There is no... whatever. And by the way, the reason I kept climbing to the top of this mountain was because I figured that it'd be easy to spot the bright yellow beacons that the stars emit once I had the high ground and a bird's eye view. But given how the game seems to have massive problems with pop-in, going by the grass here perpetually spawning out of thin air ahead of me, I should have figured that it can't render the stars until you're damn near already on top of them. Once you collect all 25 stars, you unlock the arena, where the game warps you to one of the tiny side islands, couldn't even be bothered to make an extra stage, and you're challenged to defeat 20 waves of enemies in a survival mode. You would think this would be easy, since they didn't change the enemy AI so you can still hide off, recover health, and enemies will only attack you if you approach them on your own, and the hardest part would just be willing yourself to stay awake and focused, and for the most part, you'd be right. Except the game will eventually start spawning 5 to 10 enemies in a single spot to orchestrate fights that you just flat-ass can't survive, or a group of enemies will literally spawn on top of your head and catch you in the crossfire immediately because you haven't memorized ahead of time where every single wave spawns. It's a survival mode that cheap shots you to death in lieu of being an actual test of skill. I had pretty decent luck clearing this mode with the sniper rifle girl, killing enemies from a massive distance without even having to engage in combat, because none of these bimbos has any reaction to one of their friends going completely limp and exploding a few feet away from them, and never got alerted to my presence. This plan worked like a charm up until wave 10, when the game dropped that super waifu boss on top of my head so that she could kill me with 2 volleys of rockets that turned out to be impossible to dodge. Seriously, the first time I fought Giganta here, sprinting to the side worked perfectly fine dodging these shots, but come the arena mode, I got hit by every single last one of them. Forgive me if my will to keep playing this hunk of shit for 100% completion was a bit drained. I'm still missing one of the playable characters, who I'd bet you unlock by beating the arena mode, but unless the last unlockable girl looks like this, I really couldn't care less. Waifu Impact is your typical modern shovelware game. One map that you run around endlessly, shooting crap basic weapons at crap basic AIs, dicking around towards a meaningless objective because game development has become accessible enough that any joker can throw some models down on a map and call it a day and sell it for money. It's just that in this game, said models are cartoon girls with huge jugs in order to, no pun intended, milk some cash out of weebs and teenagers. It gets boring after 10 minutes, the poor craftsmanship oozes out of its every pore, there are no additional levels, and your only meaningful reward for persevering is a broken survival mode. So why did I even bother reviewing this utter shit show shovelware non-game? Well, the hinge on my laptop friggin' exploded during the Saw review. I got a new Windows 11 laptop to replace it. Windows 11 dropped support for Windows Movie Maker unless you pay for a really shitty new version, and trying to install and keep using the old version led to tons of audio bugs in the Xbox 360 Iron Man review. Not to mention, I'm still working on my basement, which is taking up a lot of my time. On Rerez's advice, I have switched to Adobe Premiere Pro, and I figured I'd do a practice run on some shitty softcore porn game that nobody cares about before I get back to actual games. I may get another practice round on Minor Ultra Adventures 2, I haven't decided yet.